Hello and welcome to I think this is the fourth town hall. I'm your new moderator. I'm Alex Sternfeld Dunn, Faculty Senate President as of June 1st. I'll start off with just a thanks to my colleague and predecessor, Jeff Jarman, and also welcome everybody here. We've got a couple of different things we're going to talk about today, but I think where we want to start a little bit is that Wichita State has been in the national news in the last few days. And so I know, Dr. Golden, you wanted to say a few words about that, so I will turn it over to you first.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. How I'm going to present this, you have to take into account my 7 years as a police officer, so it's going to be very just the facts, but I want it very clear and deliberate so everybody understands what happened, what drove the announcements on Thursday and the news over the weekend, and what we're doing moving forward. So just as a reminder, WSU Tech is an affiliate of WSU. It became so July of 2018. And Dr. Sherry Utash is the president of WSU Tech. And at a later point in time, we can have a town hall and discussion in regard to what that relationship really is. But let me just move forward. So around April 16th of 2020, WSU Tech President Utash invited Miss Ivanka Trump to be a commencement speaker at the WSU Tech commencement, which was held this last Saturday. This was by virtue of her official leadership role at the American Workforce Policy Advisory Board, where she and Dr. Utash both were working on. The group is committed to reinforcing our country's workforce, including through higher education, something I think we all can come to agreement with. As a point of clarification, WSU Tech's original plan called for Ms. Trump to be a keynote speaker, but did not have her coming to Wichita. And like Wichita, WSU Tech, like WSU, did a virtual, quite a while ago, planned for a virtual commencement ceremony. Ms. Trump's remarks were recorded far in advance and have been played during the virtual event for a private audience of students, families, friends of those who are graduating. This past Thursday morning, June 4th, early in the morning, the White House, through the Associated Press channels, issued a press release. And WSU Tech did social media following, announcing this. As you can imagine, and as we all know, concerns about the speaker selection articulated quickly and very forcefully by students, both at both campuses, as well as faculty and staff and community members. And this wasn't just a few loud voices. This was a very vocal group. And I was notified by the President Utash what was happening and that they had pulled their social media. I pulled together our leadership, those who are on here, plus student leaders, and our PET to discuss the situation, which was very fluid, very fast acting. And I want to put this back in the context of just a couple days ago. Prior to this, there was a lot of strong protests, violence, people shooting at Wichita police officers right near our campus to the west, and to the east there were Bradley Fair and other locations were closed at night because of threats of violence. President Utash worked with the White House during this period of time on Thursday to try to come up with an appropriate solution. But finally, on the evening of June 4th, the decision was made to elevate a WSU Tech student as a speaker, as the main commencement speaker, and that Ms. Trump, like myself, and a total of 30 commencement speakers, our videos would be made available, not edited, not removed, but made available so people could see them, but just after the commencement is not as the main commencement speaker. I think this reorganization of the speaker events really allowed the central focus to be on the students. And I want to say something special about these students. Our students and WSU Tech students, this last year has been nothing short of unprecedented for them. It has been an emotional drain. COVID-19, school being turned around online, not being with friends, family members or themselves potentially have lost jobs, and now in the midst of social unrest. And I have said from the beginning, it's about the student experience, and politics set aside, we will and I will not do things intentionally to distract from a celebration, what should be a celebration experience for the students and their families. And I live and I own this decision. But I also want to say to the faculty and staff and students that we are focused on diversity, and we're going to be focused on diversity of our workforce, our student body, but also in regard to diversity of thought. We're not going to back down. We have a national election coming up. We should be, we need to continue, and we will be a university that encourages discussions, debates, lectures of people with divergent thoughts. Many of these conversations will be uncomfortable. They won't be in a situation where they're disrespectful or threatening, but we need to make sure that we really uphold the diversity of thought as a university. This, though, was about the students and the graduation. And I can tell you that the backlash has been forceful, as it was when it was announced and after we made the change. And to me, that just exemplifies the really the state of our nation right now, where we can't have personal conversations and dialogue, where it's dominated by extreme parts of the country and by media and social media. We can agree to disagree, but we need to have these conversations. And that is going to be something I'm going to be working with you and the provost to move forward. Clearly, systems fail. When I first came here, I talked about system, structure, culture. I've been on campus now for basically 4.5 months, most of my attention at WSU. Moving forward, we need to do a couple things. One, there has to be stronger understanding, alignment in regards and coordination between WSU Tech and WSU. They have our brand. What happens there affects us. What we do affects them. So we're going to do that moving forward. You have my commitment to that, and we're going to do it rather quickly as far as starting up. And the provost, actually, even before this happens, was working with the president of WSU Tech in that regard. We have to have a risk management plan or organization and process. You know, this was done around April, the invitation, and while some might have been uncomfortable with it, I don't think anything would have stopped it. I know nothing would have stopped it. And even up to a few weeks ago, nothing would have happened, even probably a week and a half ago. So this could have been approved 3 months ago, 4 months ago. We don't pre-approve commencement speakers. That's another thing that's going to happen moving forward, to kind of stay away from the politics and continue to make it a celebration. But in 24 hours, it can happen quickly and turn on us. So we're going to have those systems in place. I'm going to be working with the faculty senate, staff senate, as well as leadership to put those systems in place right away, because civil discourse unrest is going to continue. Hopefully not to where it's at right now. Hopefully the conversations do. And we have a national election coming up, and we have issues of DACA coming up. So we need to get our arms around it right now. So that's it in a nutshell. That's where we're at. I take ownership of it. We have to do better. We will do better. We do have processes, but we need to strengthen the ones that we have.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave, for that. I mean, that's a really good lead into sort of what we thought we'd spend the first little part of this town hall talking about, which is, the national conversation around race and focusing in really on our own little campus community. A lot of the nation is wrestling with sort of these big issues around systemic racism, diversity, inclusion. I was wondering, Jay, President Golden, if you could talk a little bit about some of the steps that the university on a large scale is taking in order to address those issues on our own campus.
Yeah, well, right when I got here, I made the observation and asked for data, et cetera, that as hurtful as it may be, our faculty and staff are not representative of our student body. When we talk about diversity and that we need to really make drastic improvements, that's why I engaged the task forces and the recommendations for workforce diversity, HR, and professional development. And we're going to move forward on that. The only vice president position, the only one that we're actually going out to hire right now and do a national search is that position. We have a group working on free speech, and we need to make sure we have the right policies and procedures in place because of the discourse. I am going to be asking the provost and leadership that's on this call and our faculty to do a rethink of where we're at, come up with novel ideas, new ideas, steal good ideas for how we ensure that we are a place that has respectful but diverse conversations over really impactful issues that are facing our campus, our community, our state, our nation, and our planet. We shouldn't walk away from that. We should actually be the leaders in it. And I think most importantly for me is that we uphold what I've been saying since I've been here. I defaulted to the student experience in this regard. And I want to continue that. This campus, among all the priorities, everything we're doing is a safe, diverse, and inclusive campus in every way. And to try to lead by example and to work on that.
Thank you. Sort of a similar question to Provost Mumma. Can you talk a little bit about some of the steps that Academic Affairs is taking to address diversity and inclusion for our students?
Thank you, Alex. Welcome, everyone. It's good to be here. I'm good to be available to talk to you about some important issues at our institution. First of all, I want to say that one of the things that we've been trying to work hard on over the last couple of years is to diversify our student body. And primarily, that's focused around our strategic enrollment management plan over the last 4 or 5 years, where we specifically call out recruiting more underserved students to the university. And we made a lot of progress. Actually, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've increased our underrepresented minority student population by more than 20%. A lot of those individuals, the increases in that diversity are coming from our Hispanic population, one of the fastest growing segments of our population. So we're very happy about that, but we need to do more. On the recruitment side, we've implemented a number of things over the last several years. We have diversity interns that work with our admissions team, and they go out and recruit students from our largest school district and our most diverse school district in our area, USD 259, making sure that they have positive messaging about what it's like to go to college and encouraging them, giving them tips on how to search for their college. And we'll continue to do that. We have 9 full-time high school admission representatives on our staff team, and we worked really hard to diversify that team, and 6 of those individuals are from diverse backgrounds. Our admission teams has invested several $100,000s over the last several years in direct scholarships to students from USD 259. And we have all kinds of leadership programs, enrichment programs. Our Office of Diversity and Inclusion in the Division of Student Affairs has a very successful program that they call Passage to Success, which provides scholarships to low-income first-generation students and an opportunity for them to come in the summer to get a head start on college. We have a scholarship that was supported by former Governor Mark Parkinson, who supports children of immigrants. And then we have a Sexton scholarship from the Sexton family to students from diverse backgrounds interested in education and a business major. We have many more scholarships across the university that help students who are from underserved backgrounds. So these are some of the things that we're doing, and you know, I believe that we can say that we've had a lot of success, but again, we need more. And as Dr. Golden pointed out, part of that is to diversify our faculty and staff. We know that students are going to learn better, connect better if they're taught by individuals that look like themselves. And so we're very focused around that also in academic affairs.
Yeah, and I've got a question for Dr. Golden. The university has modified its free speech restrictions on campus. With today's times that are going on, how are we going to make sure if people want to have those conversations or just want to walk down the sidewalk and start talking to people, and then all of a sudden riots start breaking out and protests, how will the university keep the campus safe?
Yeah, a couple points there, and they're very spot on, Matt, especially in our current times. And I already alluded to the fact that more organizations want to use the campus for conversations or rallies or vigils. State property, it's appropriate. Student organizations want to do that. And I alluded to that not only do we have the current issues that are facing our society, but DACA is probably going to be at the Supreme Court this week or this month, and we have the national elections. So that's going to happen. I reached out in regards to kind of free speech, First Amendment. Terry Hall, who's a vice president for student affairs, is part of a group and helping lead the group with legal and people from faculty, students, and staff, as well as the Sunflower is part of it. They began meeting in February to update the policies and procedures. It's still being finalized right now. It will certainly be done before school starts in the fall semester. They're hoping to have it done early July, and then it will be a campus-wide review with expectation that it's being updated and people will know and we'll be able to implement this fall. The other thing that you said, though, this is part of being safe. And, you know, we had the vigil Friday night, I think it was. And I think there's a lot of conversations about police departments right now. I just saw what happened in the city of Minneapolis. I think our police department, Chief Clark, is doing an exceptional job of really trying, and it has been doing in his department, been doing a strong effort to work with our campus community, be part of our campus community, be engaged, be out there, be the face and understand, and doing so in a very restrained and respectful manner. So that's another part of it. And then finally, we just, all of us, administrators, faculty, staff, students, we need to have conversations to hear each other, hear what the issues are, the pain are. The biggest concern I have right now are entities that are not on our campus coming on our campus and ensuring that it is a safe environment. So we're going to do everything we can. And if there are more things that we need to think about and do, we will.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on around this, and I appreciate everyone's answers. I think as important as these conversations are, I know that our faculty and staff have some other things they want to get to as well. So I want to be respectful of our time and make sure we can get to that. In our campus news, Dr. Golden, you released a statement a while back talking about some reorganization to the university structure. So I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Julie Scott. I think she's got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Sure. Dr. Golden, can you talk a little bit more about the restructuring and the reorganizations that's going to be happening here on campus or that already have happened? And Just to put the plug in, when are we going to get to see that nice visual of the new reorganization chart?
Oh, I actually thought it was up. I did one. I was told mine wasn't aesthetically appropriate. So I actually believe it's Academic Affairs working with Stratcom that's going to update it, but this week, without a doubt. So I think we all know that any new chancellor or president certainly wants to ensure that the organization fits her or his style and management style and what they need. I think I was trying to be very deliberate in asking for a lot of information, but equally I heard when I first came here the value of shared governance. So rather than just move quickly, rather than just get data and make a decision, I've been trying to be very deliberate and have town halls, meetings, and develop 7, 9 task forces, I lost count, and take time to be deliberate and have faculty, staff, students, and community members take what I saw as issues like diversity, make some recommendations. And sometimes I made a recommendation and they made it better or said that was a bad recommendation. That's fine. So with all that, we are now at a place this last week or so that after a lot of deliberation and input, we went ahead and made some organizational changes. I hope that it puts our institution in a better place. One that was done was to appoint Dr. Mumma, who is already our provost, to executive vice president and roll some operations and divisions into his office under his oversight. And it was done for coordination. We just talked about what happened with the commencement. Now more than ever, I think we need, especially with students coming back on campus with the pandemic, we need to really be deliberate and be coordinated. The provost and I need to be on the same page. He needs to know what's happening. I need more time to be out in the community and to work across the campus. And so those are some of the ideas. I'll probably preempt you on one question, which is budget and everything else. Sorry for preempting you, but this is a question that comes up. The only position, as I said earlier, that we're moving forward with right now is the vice president for workforce diversity, human resources, professional developments, and national search. Clearly now more than ever, we need to ensure that we have that in place from administration to faculty and staff. Other positions are, we have interims, and not only addresses the financial aspect, but goes back to professional development. I firmly believe that I want to be the person and I want to be part of an organization that gives our own people the opportunity to take on greater leadership challenges and opportunities. See if it's for them. They may not like it. See if they succeed, mentor them, and give them the best opportunity to really get these positions full time. Other positions I've listed are to be determined in the future. We have to see what happens with the budget cycle, but I have holding places so people at least see this is the expectation.
Thanks, Dr. Golden. I think those are good answers to the questions that I think many people have. I think the question still is for anything that's to be determined, is that budget already allocated and where will those funds come from?
For the ones TBD, they're not yet, so that'd be part of the process. The budget's very fluid. You know, we've done the presentation earlier. Right now, our enrollment is, I think, and I'll let the provost address this, but I think is in a better place than we thought it would be. Let's hope it holds. We just don't know what's going to happen with the state budget. We don't know what's going to happen with federal. We don't know what's going to happen with the CARES. We don't know what will happen with a pandemic if it would arise again. All things that we have to be very mindful of and thoughtful of.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. We're going to try to predict some of that uncertainty. And I think there are a lot of questions about what the fall is going to look like. So before we sort of jump into this next section, Dr. Golden has to run off to another meeting with a different constituency. So I want to thank you for your time, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you guys very much.
So All right, now he's gone. We can talk about him. Just kidding. So, Provost Mumma, lots of questions about what the fall is going to look like. The first one that I know there's been, there was a statement that was put out a couple weeks ago about what our teaching calendar is going to look like. And while it was spelled out, I thought pretty well, there still seems to be some confusion. So I was hoping you might give us a moment and help clarify what at least the fall calendar will look like.
Okay, good question. So one of the things that people need to understand that we're not modifying the dates of the fall semester. The semester starts on the 17th of August and it ends on December 10th, which is the last day for finals. The only thing that we're changing, and this is to get at the issue of the potential spread of the virus. We don't have a treatment, we don't have a vaccine. There is some concern that there may be a resurgence of the virus this fall. Sending students home to fall break or Thanksgiving break is problematic, particularly if students are going to states where the disease level is at a higher level than certainly Kansas, but the disease burden is there. There's this potential that students could leave, come back, and potentially expose people here at Wichita State. So what we're doing is eliminating the fall break, which is on a Monday and Tuesday, I believe the 13th and 14th of October, using those 2 days and tack those days on to the Thanksgiving break. Students already have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of Thanksgiving week off. We're going to give them the whole week off using those 2 fall break days. And then all in-person instruction will need to be completed by the Friday before Thanksgiving, which is November 20th. The students that would go home for Thanksgiving and they would not be expected to return for any in-person interaction. Now, if a student wanted to stay in the residence halls, they're happy to do that. There just won't be any expectation for them to gather and congregate together in classes and labs and so forth after November 20th. There's only 4 more instructional days after Thanksgiving that need to be offered in an online or remote fashion, and the following week is finals. So we thought that was the best way to do that, restructuring the calendar for the fall, or like starting the students earlier, or shortening the fall much shorter than I've already described, causes problems with federal financial aid and requires all kinds of approvals with the Department of Education. So this is the simplest way to do that, the least disruption. It allows faculty to have some time to have in-person contact with students if they choose to, front-loading that in-person contact or assessments and so forth earlier in the semester where the disease burden is more likely to be lower and less likely to have a resurgence of that spread. Again, we don't know, but this is the reason why we have put this together. And we also earlier send out communication to all faculty to plan for a hybrid design of their courses. And hybrid means anything from online, in-person, a mixed online, in-person, flipped classrooms, whole host of different ways of delivering content to give faculty a flexibility in case we do have to issue a stay-at-home order. So those are the basic tenets of the fall semester and the reasons why we did that.
And at this point, no decisions about spring have been made, correct?
No decisions have been made about spring, although we have been having conversations with the faculty about that. We have some ideas, but we're not prepared to share those right now because those conversations are on.
Great. There is a question in the chat that I wanted to get to from Rosemary Hanson is wondering, you mentioned the dorms. So for a student who's going to be living on campus this fall, will they need to quarantine? So in her instance, her child is coming from Illinois. Do they have to stay in their dorm for 2 weeks, or they have to show up 2 weeks early? how are we going to be handling students traveling across the country onto our campus?
Yeah, so we may have plans well, let me correct that. We will have plans to address that may be needed. We do have plans to open up the residence halls much earlier than has been done in the past. So first of all, to be able to allow students to move in, practice social distancing, and just have more time to do that. That would give us an opportunity in case we need to quarantine anybody for 14 days. It really depends on the state that they travel from. There's certain states, and Illinois, I believe, is one that's on our health department list of states where that is required. But that could change between now and then. But rest assured, we'll have instructions for families and students, exactly what will need to be done, if anything. And there will be opportunity to do that if we do need to do it in the residence halls.
I know some guidelines have been put in place, and I think Matt's got a question about how some of those guidelines might be enforced.
Yeah, if somebody wants to be in a classroom or office but doesn't have the proper facial protection, what recourse does that faculty member or employee that's in that office have in regards to that person not wearing that proper mask?
Yeah, so, and this question comes up on a daily basis, has come up on the previous town halls, and my answer is really the same. So it is the expectation that if you're on campus, whether you're an employee, whether you're a student, or whether you're a visitor, that you wear a face covering. Unless you're walking by yourself on campus, or if you're in your own individual office on campus. Now, we're going to have people who don't know that, who show up. It's going to be up to everybody to reinforce that. We're going to have signage, or more signage and more communication about that as we get closer to the fall semester. But even today, I'm seeing people who are not doing that, and it's up to us to tell them to do that. As a matter of fact, we all need to probably carry disposable masks with us, so when we do see students or employees or visitors not wearing masks, that they're doing it. And it's really important for all of us to adhere to this. Often I see people wearing their mask and they're kind of pulled down, just kind of hanging off their face. And it really needs to cover their nose, mouth, in order for that to be effective. We're going to have some misses on this. I know that it's going to be a very hard behavior to change. Anytime you're trying to change people's behavior for health reasons, it's always going to be that case. We're all going to have to work towards that. If it is a situation where someone refuses to do that, we've talked about how we need to discuss that with students or employees or whatever. And in a case where someone is trying to meet with us in person and doesn't want to wear a mask, then we have opportunities like this and these kinds of formats if that's something that people feel strongly about, or for whatever reason they can't wear a mask, some sort of medical issue. We can meet with them remotely like this. But again, it's going to take all of us to work together to make this happen. Continued communication across campus, and even myself, I struggle with it too. They're often not comfortable when it's hot outside. You start sweating around your face. It just takes time to get used to. Now, I've been to several events on campus recently where everybody was wearing masks, and we had masks there for people who didn't have masks. And I recommend that everybody practice that same kind of activity to encourage folks to wear masks.
So, Rick, that's a really good discussion. I think there's also some questions that have popped up in previous chats before, previous discussions that we've had with the town halls about events that will be happening either indoors or outdoors. And can you give us a little insight as to what guidance the university is using? I think maybe in past sessions you've talked about using the state guidance as opposed to maybe Sedgwick County, or finding a good mix in between.
Yeah, so right now we're following the state of Kansas reopening Kansas plan. That's still recommended. And so we're in that process. I believe we're in phase 2 or getting ready to be in phase 2. We're still holding to those crowd sizes in those particular different phases of the state plan. Don't plan on changing that. And if the state eventually opens up, then we'll reconsider how we're operating on campus. You have to remember that we're a little bit different from a lot of institutions. We have a lot of people congregating. In fact, we design our whole campus to ensure people are congregating because we understand and we know that's the best way for people to connect and learn. But right now, we're going to follow the state plan. Even though the county has basically opened up pretty much across the board, we're sticking to what the reopening Kansas plan states.
Rick, there's a question from the chat that I wanted to address from Jolyn Dowling, sort of around these same topics. And so the question is, how is PPE enforcement addressed to our campus partners who may operate under different guidelines? They may go to our campus buildings and not have the proper PPE. So what are we doing with our external partners and how are we communicating to them?
So when we put our campus reintegration groups together, one of them was to deal with our partners on campus. And Tanya Witherspoon chaired that and currently chairs that particular group. And she went and met with every one of those partners to make sure that they had plans and that they were in line with ours, because we want people on our campus to have the same kind of experience, because with students working in some of these facilities, and we don't want any confusion about what they're doing versus what we're doing. We have noticed a couple of times that that hasn't been the case, and we have reached out to those particular partners to discuss what they were doing to try to rectify that. But for the most part, we have worked with all of them, and I feel comfortable that they are in line with our plans.
Just so everyone on the stream knows, we're coming to our list of to the end of our list of prepared questions. So if you have additional questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I know that Rick is super excited to just keep answering as many questions as we can throw at him. I want to just keep talking a little bit about how the campus is planning on addressing COVID-19. There's been a little bit of a change in the state of Kansas about sort of moving from the state level to the county level. Right now, our county has sort of said, we've got some advice for you, but freedom and do whatever you want. And the state seems to be taking a more measured approach. As we're moving forward, do you see us aligning more with the state level, with the county level, with the federal level? Sort of what are those plans?
Well, I just as in follow up what I was talking about with Julie's question, and Alex, I think you know me, and most people probably who are watching this understand. I'm a very measured individual. I'm not going to recommend anything that's drastic or that's going to put people in harm's way. You know, I'm a healthcare provider. Do no harm is what I always think about. So again, I'm going to continue to recommend that we stay with the state plan and take it out as far as they take it. And again, as I said earlier, if we do need to actually make some further modifications after the state plan opens up entirely later on this summer, if that happens, then again, we might have to make some modifications here because of the kind of institution that we are. But for now, we're staying with the state plan.
I think that's great advice. I always, in these conversations, remind people that we are more like a cruise ship than a city, because we've got 15,000 people all congregated within a mile distance. So it may look a little different out of campus, but there's a good reason for that. So I think just to sort of pull this back a little bit full circle, unless other questions come up in the chat, we asked a little earlier Dr. Golden to talk about his reorganizational structure. And one of the things he announced was that we're going to be sort of switching to this provost model, the strong provost model, as they like to call it. And we were just hoping you might give us a few words about what that's going to look like in your role, how that may look different, and any thoughts you have about that.
Okay. Yeah, so I have lots of thoughts. I don't know if I have all the answers at this particular time, but as our university's grown, so as all of our units, and it's been more important as demonstrated lately that we coordinate better with everybody across all of our campuses. It's typical when you see a university like ourselves that is growing and doing more things of consequence to have someone in the role of an executive vice president. And typically what that means is that they coordinate the broader campus functional areas. And so what you've seen already is research has moved into up underneath my area of responsibility. Innovation and new ventures has already been moved into that area. We already had the Institute for Interdisciplinary Innovation, and that unit has taken on that additional responsibility. And now we're going to take on the broader responsibility of helping to coordinate activities in student affairs, with academic affairs, along with military veterans and first responder type programs. So in terms of what you'll see me do on a daily basis is not much different, because what I spend most of my time is in meetings and bringing people together to have conversations. We'll be doing more of that, thinking about things more broadly, understanding that these people like Vice President Terry Hall, who's an expert in student affairs, I'm not going to take over what Terry does. I'm going to rely on her more to do the work that she does, but to work more seamlessly with academic affairs and having her involved in more of our decisions in academic affairs and vice versa. So we have a more coordinated approach, and particularly among students. We have a lot of crossover already, and I think we work together for the most part already. But it's important for us to, I think, have a more coordinated approach. Same with military and veterans, first responders, ROTC, which is more of an academic program that Dr. Marche Fleming Randall, who's going to be the VP over that area. So Marche also will be involved in helping coordinating those student activities and services that relate to her area and to student affairs and to academic affairs. We also have need to coordinate for accreditation purposes, for assessment purposes. So this will be more helpful going forward in that respect too. So I'm excited. Taking on some additional responsibilities. I'm never shied away from that. I'm looking forward. There's great people to work with. And then also, I just want to say too that even those are the areas that have been moved up under my area of responsibility. I work very closely with our Chief Financial Officer, Warner Goling. If you think about everything now that is reports up under in my area and Warner's area, that's a large chunk of the university. And we already have a great relationship, and we work well to coordinate resources and leverage each other's resources. And that'll continue, and that'll be helpful as we have these other units reporting up into this area, this broader area in academic affairs.
Thanks for that answer, Rick. I think it's also just super exciting to see where we're going to go with the student experience at the university as a result of this, and with bringing so many areas together in that endeavor. We did have another question that kind of changes topics back to the fall semester, just more specifically regarding our international students who are attending this fall and whether or not they have to quarantine themselves as they then come on campus.
Yeah, so that's a good question too, and it would be the same answer that I had for students who are coming from states that are of concern and on the health department's list of states that we need to be watchful for. It'll be the same thing for those countries. And so again, we'll coordinate with housing. We're already going to open up residence halls for those individuals that live in there to stay in there if we need to for quarantine purposes. And that'll be the same thing for international students. We'll have some more information as time moves on to distribute to people to make sure they understand fully what they need to do.
Thank you for that. I think that really sort of brings us to the end of our questions. First, I want to give a quick plug for any faculty who might be watching and who might be struggling with preparing for this fall and what that might look like. There's a ARC conference happening this week. Dr. Mumma, do you have additional information about that, or do I have it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but you told me that you were going to say something about it, so I have it written down here somewhere.
Okay, well, I can tell you, there's a Zoom session happening shortly after this town hall at 4 o'clock for really focused for faculty, and it's going to be with Carolyn Shaw, myself, and Jeff Jarman will be moderating that with some specific questions. If you, as a faculty member, have questions about preparing your classes for the fall, that would be a great place to show up.
Yeah, and I would also point out, and just give a plug for that, I know the Office of Instructional Design and Technology and Access are very, very interested in working with faculty to do whatever they can to help them move their courses into a remote format, hybrid format, whatever it is. Please take them up on that. They'll do individual consultation. They have all kinds of web-based kinds of material. I do also want to remind faculty, if they have not submitted how they're planning to deliver their coursework in the fall, they need to do that by going to wichita.edu/fall2020. We really need for you to do that so students fully understand how the courses that they're registered in the fall are going to be delivered. So make sure you do that. We're still working out classroom scheduling in the registrar's office, so look out for that. Understanding we're going to have some compromise in some cases, because in order to do social distancing, we've got to make sure that we have no more than a certain amount of people in rooms. So please work with the registrar and consider being flexible about how you might want to offer your courses. So those are some additional plugs, Alex, that I wanted to make sure people understood.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, and the chat is blowing up with praise for our instruction design team, and even the ARC sessions that have been happening. So yeah, it's a great resource for faculty. Also, as we sort of tie up the end, I want to just sort of give a thank you to Matt and Julie, who have been president of the UP and USS Senates and doing a great job this year. They step off at the end of June. So this is officially their last town hall with us, because I think the next one's scheduled in July. So thank you both for your service to the staff. So a round of applause for you.
One other question on there I just saw that I've been asked before. Can I answer it?
Yeah, please.
So this was, oh, I've lost it now, but it was something to do, how many cases of COVID would be on campus before we go into stay-at-home order, or do the same thing that we did with the stay-at-home order. And really that's determined by the local health department and the state health department. I don't have a magic number. And Camille Childers, who's our director of student health, it would be the one that would be providing guidance and advice on what we would need to be doing. And we would be coordinating that effort with the state health department. So I know people are wanting to know what the number would be, but we don't have that kind of information. And we probably would never want to come up with a particular number, because it's very specific to the particular cases and the nuances associated with those cases.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been wondering about that. There was also one more question that came into the chat. We have a little time, so I want to make sure we can get to all of them. There's a question from Kelly wondering sort of how does the staff that does schedule building, how are they going to get that information for the fall? Is it going to be available on a report? Will it be communicated in some way? Has it been communicated already and maybe some of us just missed it? Rick, do you know the answer to that?
So I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So how does the staff that does schedule building get the false information? And Alex, help me if you think this is different, but in terms of the fall schedule, that schedule is already out there. We're not changing any part of those courses. What we are asking faculty to do is go to wichita.edu/fall 2020 to let us know how they're going to be delivering their courses. So we could still have faculty delivering their courses the same time frame, but in a synchronous fashion, like in a Zoom or something like this, on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 3 or whatever. You can go already, everybody can go to wichita.edu/fall 2020 to see how those courses are being delivered. But the other courses have all been changed to hybrid, but the times and the dates and the days are all still in the schedule.
Yeah, and I think just to echo or piggyback on that, Gina Crabtree and her amazing team in the registrar's office has been pretty great about sending some emails out to faculty sort of saying, here's the new quota for your classroom in these different phases. If your class is bigger than this, you're going to have to figure out how to adjust that. There was a request earlier from faculty to designate if it had to be face-to-face, or sorry, in person, or could some of it be done in a hybrid model. So if you are uncertain of what the classroom size you're going to be teaching in is now, or the classroom quota, I would probably encourage you to reach out to, to your department chair or director if they see if they have the answer. If not, they'll know. They can ask of their deans and Gina. Someone can get you that information.
So Gina just actually texted me. Don't you just love the use of technology? So I said that all courses were going to be recoded to hybrid, and that still is the plan. It just hasn't been done yet. So stay tuned for that. And then she also said that instructional method change will be done soon, and that relates to that as well. So, and shout out to Gina and her team too. Thank you. They've done a lot of work, not only on this, but on the classroom capacity issue with David Wright, Carolyn Shaw, and her team as well. So thank you all for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, they're doing some pretty impressive work. And I will also say, if you are adding new classes, schedule building is waiting till about June 15th to add new classes to the fall schedule in order to catch up with all the changes that they're having to make in current instruction and those things. So yeah, Gina does her team, they're all amazing, and I'm so glad I'm not doing that job right now. So with that said, I think we're going to end it here so that people have a little bit of time to go finish off their day. If you're going to come to the 4 o'clock Zoom session, grab a cocktail before. I'm not saying that I will, but I might, who knows. Again, my deep appreciation to Matt and Julie for all your work. Rick, thank you for staying with us the rest of the time and answering our questions, and Dr. Golden as well. I appreciate having him at the beginning of this. I know he had a lot of things to take care of today, so appreciate making time for that. So I will say thank you everyone for watching. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, and we'll see you soon. Social distance, that's right. And we'll see you again in July for another town hall. So thank you, everybody.
Bye.